It's Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. This is Freshly Pressed. We have the analysts in, and we're looking at the news stories that are making the headlines across the country. Would love for you to be a part of the conversation. So let us know what your thoughts are. WhatsApp number 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth981. You can catch the live stream up on our YouTube channel as well. And so you can even post a comment on there. The analysts this morning are in. It's Lakunle and Devoe. Good morning and welcome.
Morning, President Zibby. Morning, everyone from wherever in the world you're listening to us this morning. And let's have a great time on this show.
Morning, Zibby. Morning, Smooth. Morning, world. Lagos. Eku, you get oil block.
Well, that leads us into our first headline from Premium Times. Nigeria begins allocation of new oil blocks. Devoe?
Yes. You get oil block. I guess that is a famous saying coming from people who eye oil-rich countries, e.g. And with all our woes, economic and security, you would really laugh to understand that Nigeria is still an oil block nation. And unfortunately, we don't resemble Bahrain, Kuwait, Dubai, or Saudi. Well, the Nigerian Upstream Downstream Regulatory Agency has said that the 2024 block licensing round will commence, and they're looking at pushing upwards about 14 licenses. He announced this at a foreign roadshow. As you know, oil investors come from all over the world. They come through different company names and through different, what I call it, asset management interests, to be able to buy into what they call lucrative assets. And basically, the chief executive, Gbenga Komolafe, was speaking to the fact that these oil blocks, cover diverse geological spectra, from fertile onshore basins to the promising shelves that's like on the coastline, and then the untapped depths of the Nigerian deep offshore territories. Literally, if you know a little about the oil-rich Nigeria, you will begin to understand why the Niger Delta always has problems. And when I say problems, I'm referring to the consistent fights that take place simply because of the richness of what God has blessed them with. And this is not even over. He was saying that the federal governments, through the legal framework of the PIA, have made 2D and 3D seismic data coverage available for these investors to be able to review, make up their minds. As you know, just like many of the assets that the country sells, like the time they sold the discos, or like the time they sold the telco licenses, the oil and gas sector does have its framework. And the whole idea is to ensure that we attract sufficient investments to keep our reservoirs activated. And what normally happens is that what it does is not only does it create opportunities for crude, gas, and other hydrocarbons from our ground, it creates much levels of employment and also revenue for the government. They've also mentioned that they will be following the principles of the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative. And that was one of the key legal frameworks put in place to ensure that Nigeria is a mutual beneficiary of any transaction that takes place, because long ago, it was seen that it was the investors or the foreign parties that had the bigger side of the stick but so many aspects of the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative speak to how, and their policies as to how Nigeria will also benefit in the long run. Might I say that have we reaped the ultimate benefit of being an oil extractive nation? I don't think so. I think we've misused our oil wealth in one instance. And it's not just about stealing, it's about how we appropriate what we have. We produce crude, but we're not able to process, which is called refining. So here you see us having the day-to-day woes of importing petroleum products into the nation: aviation fuel, kerosene, PMS, and diesel. Despite the fact that Nigeria has 14 times the reservoir of gas than it does in crude, meaning that Nigeria is a gas nation, we've not been able to resolve our power problems. I mean, as you can see, the derelict states that our power industry is in, from the generation to the transmission network, as well as the discos. So we still have a long way. And what I would call for is, whilst they are selling oil blocks, I think they also need to put due attention. And and I don't think if need be, this is the time when you call for a state of emergency, because we cannot have all these things free of charge, things that we don't work for, things that other nations literally take for free, like Benin Republic, and yet we can't get it right. The citizens cannot benefit. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Devoe. Let's move on to the next headline. And this one is coming from Vanguard. Women Affairs Minister sees Niger Speaker over plans to marry 100 girls. Lakunle?
Very interesting. And when I say interesting, not necessarily to mean that it's a joke or it's funny, but that someone wakes up and thinks that the solution to a problem is a route A. And then I keep asking myself, what do we want as a country for ourselves, for our children, for the future generations that are coming behind? So a speaker wakes up in the morning and says that agreeing to marry off a group of girls who were orphaned by whatever means in itself was a solution to a problem. And then it also comes back to the question we always ask: what are our governors doing? Why can't these girls? Yes, it's a security problem that led us to where we are. There are so many questions in my head that I'm not even able to even articulate them into simple sentences right now, because there's a bit of emotion in me that is angry that we are even having this conversation at all. Having said that, now the speaker wakes up and says, we are marrying them off, and he will pay the dowries on behalf of the groom. That suggests to me already that the men these girls are being married to cannot take care of them. If somebody has to pay their dowries on their behalf, that's level one. Then it goes to the question, what are our governors doing? What happens to education? What happens to learning a trade before they think of marriage? What happens to their ages? Are we saying it's just okay that we are creating liabilities out of liabilities? Having said that, on the side of the governor, of the speaker, and I've spoken to what the government is also doing. Now let's go back to our minister, because it's a tertiary level that is in this matter, because the primary level is the local government, the state government, and then the federal government. I have noticed that the only times the minister of Women Affairs had been in the news had been in reactive situations. The last three that I can easily remember: the girl in
The school in Abuja?
No, not that one. That one is the second one. The girl that was slapped in Abuja. There was one in, I think, Anambra or Imo also. And now this one. What is the plan of the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs? What is their job function? What is job function of that ministry? What are they supposed to be doing? Where is their strategy to do those things? Where is the plan? What is the activity they are engaged in? Is it a ministry set up for advocacy for women and girl children? What exactly is the ministry about? Everything we hear from them is always reactive. You've not seen them say that they've done something out of the strategy or plan that the ministry has. So going to court to go and achieve what exactly? I think that much of these things are things that can be solved. And then there's a part of this story that says that the federal ministry will assume responsibility for the education of those girls. Okay, so when our tenure ends as minister, what happens? People who are Nigerian scholarships today all over the world, we hear them every day, they suffer. They beg every day that they've not been paid their stipends. So what happens after her time as minister? Is she saying it because she's minister today and then these people will enjoy the scholarship for 4 years or 8 years as the case may be? In fact, who even guarantees her that she will remain minister for the next 4 years as the case may be? So where is the grand plan to handle all of these things? Yes, security challenges, they are insurgents, we cannot handle that. People are killed, leaving behind children who are orphans. So what happens to those orphans? What are the things that we need to do? So these are the concepts that I think that people in government need to be thinking of, except that we're just being deliberate in our short-sightedness at handling this kind of problems. I think all of the people involved in this can do better. It's not just enough to marry them off. It's not just enough to go to court. There are many things that we do that, like Yoruba people will say, that there's the stick that's going to puncture my eye, I dodge it from a distance. So we need to take care of these things immediately, not just reaction to them.
All right, thank you, Lakunle. Let's look at some of the messages coming through. Adegboyega says, new oil blocks for new investors that haven't tested the ground if it's safe or not. But what happens to all the foreign investors that left the country out of frustration? JP says, a lot is desired in our nation. The speaker goes the wrong way, and the House and Ministry of Justice can't set him right. It's a shame. As for sitting on 200 trillion SCF of gas and we don't have enough for power, it's the longest joke on us as a nation. Emeka says, what offense did the speaker? Okay, Emeka, we're talking, you probably didn't get the gist of that headline. But no, he's not marrying 100 women at once. He basically wants to marry off young girls who have been left orphaned as a result of insecurity. So he's trying to get them husbands. So that is it. Tonye says, I don't understand how a government can literally sponsor what can be deemed as proposed child rape. How are the men that have been scheduled to marry these children not pre-registered as pedophiles only in Nigeria? Dan Okuda says the Minister of Women Affairs seems to not be well prepared for her job. Let's keep the conversation going. Don't forget, I'd love to read from you. 0809 440 981. That is the WhatsApp number. Moving on to the next headline. This one comes from Punch. Federal government plans performance-based salary scheme for workers. Devoe?
This organization, that's the National Productivity Center. They've been speaking for the federal government on Monday, where they announced that they will be introducing a performance-based salary scheme for civil servants. And basically what that means is workers on the same level can earn different salaries. And they're saying this is a scheme that they have adopted to encourage productivity in the office. So, for example, it doesn't just mean because you have done well, you have delivered on your job, and you have excelled that you'll be promoted. But as the private sector does it, you have different levels of pay grades. So if an officer is on 100,000 a month, if he does well, let's say the next promotion level will take him to 150. But in this scheme, if you excel in your duty, along the way, you could be given just a slight salary raise, meaning you might move from 100 to 120 or from 120 to 130 in the name of good productivity. And they're saying that this is to encourage productivity amongst the various stakeholders, so that most people don't feel that they're working for nothing. Well, what I would say is this. Yes, it's a great scheme. It's what the private sector already does. However, the point is, when it comes to government, most times brilliant initiatives get, what I call it, corrupted. And corrupted simply means, is the basis of evaluating this productivity also above board. And usually, most times, we know that government's roles or appointments are usually a function of your network or your connection, not so much because of what you have merited. Also, we also know, because a lot of government positions come with appointments with whoever is in power, either at the federal or at the state level, you don't have a lot of what we call performance management, meaning people are not evaluated, graded. It's not a matter of merit. And that's the challenge for government across all sectors. If by way of ministries at the federal level, by way of commissions at the state level, and even down to local governments, how do we reintroduce the merit-based system into the country? It is one of the biggest challenges, because so much has gone down. Corruption has torn the fabric of this nation. The civil service is, what I call it, the biggest machinery of corruption in this nation. They hardly get called out, because most times they are working for the politicians. So, in as much as we would laud this system, the point is, I don't see it being any different of any value to the system, because the way our system runs, it is a function of manipulation. So what you require is that for this system to work, you require either the commissioner or the governor or the president or the minister, those who are in charge, keeping a keen eye on their organizations to ensure that they can actually identify those who are doing the work and give those people the upper hand. It's right now, we don't have time to break it down, but honestly, it's a tall order. It's a really tall order, because I don't know if you've ever gone to a ministry or commission to get anything. You know how things work. You cannot walk in there and just say, I have a piece of land that I want to get a title or a C of O, and think that you'll walk out the next day happily saying that I've just met this person, he didn't know me, and he just got my C of O for me. That would be the day.
All right, thank you, Devoe. Let's look at some more messages coming through. Tony Chima says, when will this government commence the sale of Bauchi oil, or is it a publicity scam? Fabian says, unfortunately, I think we are reaping the fruits of our actions. When we vote in people based on sentiments rather than on their level of education, professional capacity, experience, we get the present debacle we are in. I hope the agencies concerned, as well as the stakeholders, will speak up for the girl child and some of the young mothers. AB Ambo says, someone should help us investigate whether countries like Saudi Arabia and Angola are allocating oil blocks as we do in Nigeria. Saudi Arabia is a good example of how a country should manage its oil wealth. Why can't we learn from the Arabian kingdom? Are we not tired of washing our hands with speed, even though we're living on the bank of a river? Orov says, marry young girls off. This is insanity. The speaker should be arrested. No excuse. Good Lord, I can't believe we're having this conversation in 2024. Angel says, the marriage in Niger State is a cultural issue, so the speaker believes he's doing them a favor. What is therefore required is a reorientation and a strategy to properly educate all the players involved. This speaker might halt the plan today, but another official in the future will be guilty of the same thing unless that reorientation is done. Education truly is liberation. You're still listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The conversation continues. More headlines, more of your messages shortly.
Zibby, I'll do story 7 last.
I'm sorry?
I'll do story 7 next.
Okay, good, good.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Praise, and if you want good music, stay tuned to Smooth 98.1.
Music is about soul healing vibes that transcend you with lyrical grooves, lifting you into love as you flow through life. My music is frequency. Love music, love life. You're listening to Mind News.
This is Johnny Drill, and you're listening to the Smooth Breakfast Show.
It's freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. Zibby here, and the analysts are in Lakunle and Devoe. We have some more headlines to go. Keep your messages coming 0809 4440981. We're streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth 981. That's the channel on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. And of course, you can also tweet or X at Smooth 981. The hashtag is freshly pressed 981. And we're moving on to the next headline. This one comes from Vanguard. Ex-CBN Governor Emefiele faces fresh charge over printing of Naira. Lakunle?
Yes. I think we've spoken about this a few times on this show. I think that the EFCC and all government agencies involved in this trial or investigation, as it may be, um, should be more serious. I think that we've had enough of reading about this on the pages of the newspaper. I think that they should just get to court, have their day in court, have this man face trial, let justice take its course if we think that he really, really has done things that needed to get him where he is. He's been held now for upwards of 1 year, I think. Yep, close to 1 year. So every now and then we hear in the newspapers additional charge, additional charge. Why can't the prosecuting agency just do their own work once and for all and do all their investigation before they approach a court? Why are you approaching a court with 10 charges today? By the next time you are going, it has become 12. The next time you are going, it has become 13. People, all of us are emotional about what we went through during this man's tenure as the CBN governor. Yes. But does he have certain laws that backed him up to be able to do the things he did? Yes. Who were the people who gave him approvals to do those things? There were people. Yes. Why are we hanging everything around his neck? Yes, the buck stop at his desk. But you see, the most important part of it that some technicality is going to come up someday, right? A lawyer is going to go to court someday and say that, look, this guy is not a criminal offense. He stayed in detention for more than the number of days that want. I don't know how the law people say all those things. And this man, perhaps if he's guilty, he's going to walk free because of these things that we see. I mean, it doesn't take so much to get these things done. If you are sure that you have him on these things, get it done. There has been court that said they should grant him bail, I think. They've refused to obey that. So what's the point in coming to the newspaper to tell us all these stories when you cannot just go to court and go and prove them? I think that we should just take the man to court, let him have his day, let the trial go on as smoothly and as quickly as possible so we can close it. Everybody is tired of hearing all these stories about this every day.
All right, thanks, Lakunle. Let's look at some messages coming through. Mary from Ikeja says, one cannot pour something out of an empty cup. By extension, you cannot give beyond your capacity. That's why a person of such level as the speaker would arrive at an awkward solution like marrying off girls to empower them, and empowers in quotes. What then happens to the boy orphans? Arrange a cougar for them? This is not even funny. Ajayi says the plan by the Speaker of the Niger State House of Assembly to marry off 100 orphans and the reaction of the Minister of Women Affairs speaks volumes of the dysfunction in our governing system at the local, state, and federal level. Olumide says, in Nigeria, 12 is the age of consent. I kid you not. It's actually 18. This matter was hotly defended by members of the National Assembly of Islamic Persuasion at a certain time in Nigeria. Anthony Francis says, we have a nation where something happens and the racket in the system is discovered, and then the problem no longer ends. Fuel scarcity comes up, and our refineries can no longer work. Cashless policy implemented, and POS business booms, and we can no longer get cash from banks. Power failure. Oh wow, it's a long list. Let's just move
Can
on
I
to the
quickly
next.
react to that age 12
Yes,
consent thing?
yes.
So yes, that's what the law says. So two things quickly. Age 12 years does not mean then that age 12 then you go and marry. Okay, so even if you marry, does that stop the person from learning a trade, going to school to better the person's lot? I think the bigger picture here is what kind of society are we eventually creating? We are creating a society that's entirely dependent on people of means. So the speaker now, for example, pays dowries for the men. So who pays the cost of feeding the man and his new bride? So the life becomes dependent on somebody else. So the focus for us should actually be on the kind of society we want to raise. And then two, quickly, sorry, I'm very sorry. The civil societies, our civil societies that and all that, these are the kind of lobbies that we need to start making in our states and national assemblies to get this kind of laws that we are not happy with repealed or reviewed and so on and so forth.
And it does seem like there is a lot of duplicity. It's like the laws are a bit ambiguous because the Child Rights Act would say something else that says you cannot have sexual intercourse with a child under 18. But it's a whole conversation. Let's move on to the next headline. This one is coming from The Nation. Osun Governor Adeleke vows to turn 6 towns into cities. Devoe?
Well, I wish I had taken this story first. It's the dancing governor, Governor Adeleke of Osun State. He was just given another traditional title as the Asiwaju of Ede Town. However, in his jubilation and response to the people for the title, he said Osun State will be great. And in his bid to make Osun State great again, he said he's going to turn about 6 villages or small towns into cities. He was referring to Ife, he was referring to Iwo, he was referring to Ikirun, Ilesha, all the I's, right? But you see, the point is this. I think it's time that because some of the bad governance we get is a result of Nigerian citizens in various states accepting the poor policies of the politicians, like you just were speaking about in Niger State, where they married off some of their girls. It's what the people accept that happens. In this instance, the governor is saying that he will turn villages or small towns into cities. Last time they were on TV and they had a big ceremony. I think they borrowed the Wike style of singing, and as they sweet us, they paint them. And what were they launching? An overhead bridge. Zibby, really, in 2024, should we be having ceremonies over bringing a flyover bridge into a small city or small town? I mean, I expect that if he's intending to turn them into towns, he will be speaking of larger infrastructural projects that would literally not just employ the people, create employment, but bring exposure, movement, traffic, trade, and commerce to those towns. Osun State is rich with about 4 solid minerals in commercial quantities. Osun State also bears the beehive of a lot of crop and livestock capacities. These are the things we want to hear from him. Literally, he should be speaking about an investment conference. So that's why we've said, dancing governor, if the dancing is distracting you, please stop and face your work, because you made a lot of noise when you were coming in, and you must ensure that you deliver, not just for a few people and a few flyovers, but real projects that will change the face and the existence of Osun State. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Devo. A few more messages. This one is from Oluwaseyi. Oluwaseyi says, a country filled with a large population of prehistoric Homo sapiens, our go-to plan for everything or problem are things that will get other normal humans wondering where we are coming from and if we are okay. How did the idea even come up about marrying these young girls? Who do us? Adewale says, fresh probe and probes all the time. Get to work. Arrest and prosecute the alleged offender if found guilty. Also, I'm sure he didn't do all the alleged things alone. He reports to some people and he had subordinates. I'm sure if he's found guilty and goes down, many heads would roll. Abbas says, if we don't believe in any solution the government prefers for our problem, so how do we move on? How are we ever going to get the ideal society if all we do is condemn everything they bring forward? And if we have better options, we can always send them to the authority. We pray for Nigeria to be great. Toyin says, the analyst has explained it all concerning the government issue. There's corruption everywhere. When government brings out policies, people always look for ways to, okay, that sentence is not completed. Yinka says, we need to deal with corruption in Nigeria. Once that is done, there will be no need to want to motivate government workers. Marry of 100 girls and all the absurd solutions being proposed by those in government. Babatunde Alao says, on the case of the former CBN governor, I feel EFCC should follow the law rather than making headlines all the time. It's looking like our usual way of payback. And one last message. Samuel from Lekki says, Oshun's are delicate to create 6 cities with a question mark. Not that it is undoable, but we need to have seen moves towards this direction. Rather, we've seen a lot of dancing and rhetorics. Perhaps he can do more with 30 billion in the account. I see what you did there. All right. Well, that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for your messages. Thank you for listening. And of course, special thanks to our amazing analysts, Lakunle and Devoe, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Mr. President Zibby, for having me.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
Bye.
Bye.